be acceptable over there. So for that reason, in order to make that field value as unique, we are using this checkbox called as unique checkbox. Next, the seventh one, length. Length property. What is the use of this length property? Sometimes you can specify the number of characters to be allowed. So this text data type will allow us to enter the data up to how many characters? 255. Suppose I want to create a text box to store the par number value. Par number contains so many characters, maximum 10 characters, not more than that. So at that time, I want to restrict the number of characters to be get allowed as 10, not more than that. For that reason, we can able to use the property called as length property. Length property is used to restrict the number of characters. Restrict the number of characters to be allowed. In the field. Inside this field, how many number of characters to be get allowed? We can able to specify. If you want to allow only 10 characters, then you can specify here. Now the unique checkbox. To make the field value unique. That means that column should not allow duplicate values. Next. The eighth property is we are going to be indicating the external ID checkbox. The external ID checkbox. So what is the use of this external ID checkbox? This external ID checkbox is used to indicate, okay, this external ID checkbox is used to indicate this particular column can store the external system's record ID also. Okay, external system means what? Third-party systems record ID also it will be storing inside this. So now, because whenever we are having the integration with the third-party systems, at that time we are using the help of this external ID checkbox, which will be used to store the external systems record ID here. Used to store the external system record ID for the reference during the integration processes. During the integration process, in order to store the external system record ID, we are using this checkbox, external ID checkbox. These are the various properties are available as part of this text data type. So text data type will allow us to store the alphanumerical values along with few special characters also inside this. So whenever I'm storing this, whenever I'm creating this text field, it is having the various properties like as the field label, field name or API name, description property, help text property, required checkbox, unique checkbox, length property, and the external ID checkbox. These are the various properties are available as part of this text data type. Now, so let's go with this next data type here, text area. Text area. So what is this text area? Now let me explain over. For example, assume that I'm having some table. So this is the table which is having some fields inside this. Like for example, Salesforce is giving some default fields, which is giving some ID field, name field, owner field, like that it is having the fields which is given by Salesforce. Now these are the fields are available. We have ID field, name field, owner field, and then some more fields are also available here. Now, today I want to create a field with the name address because I want to store the address of a field. For that one, I would like to create a field with the name some address. I want to create an address field. which will be having the name address underscore underscore. So then what will happen inside this user interface? It is going to be having a text box inside this user interface. Okay, whatever the user interface will be preparing by Salesforce, inside this user interface, it is going to be preparing a field with the name address. To enter the address value, it is preparing a text area control. If it is preparing a text area, why? Because if I'm selecting the data type as text area, it is preparing this text area over here where we can able to enter the data in the multiple lines also. We can enter the address in the multiple lines. So in this case, what happened? Whenever I'm going to be adding a column, automatically user interface will be getting prepared by Salesforce. This is the internal concept. This is the internal concept. Whenever we are adding a field by selecting the data type, the respective user interface will be preparing the Salesforce. So upon creating the field by selecting the data type as text area, Salesforce is going to preparing the user interface. In this user interface, it is adding that field with the name address, and then it will be preparing one text area where we can enter the data in the multiple lines. So then how many characters it will allow? Text area also will allow that maximum of 255 characters of length, but it will be allowing you to enter the data in multiple lines. Text data type will be simply preparing. If it is a text data type simply prepares a normal text box where we can enter the data in only one line. But text area will be allowing us to enter the data in multiple lines also. That is the only difference. Now, so in this case, whenever we are creating the field, if I'm selecting the data type as text area data type will be allowing us to enter the data up to 255 characters of length in multiple lines. Not more than that. Now, in this case, what are the various properties are available for this text area? Now let me explain. Now text area allows us to enter the content maximum of 255 characters in multiple lines. Now, so in this case, what are the various properties are available? The first 4 properties are common for every data type. Whatever the 18 data types that we have, for every data type, first 4 properties are common. First one is field label, which is used to indicate what label should be visible here. So here, what label you want to make it visible? Here, I would like to indicate, okay, like as some part number. So this is the label I want to show. For that reason, here we are going to be indicating the label over here, along with the text box, what label to be visible in the user interface. Next, the second one, the field name or API name. That means inside this particular table, what is the column name over here? To indicate that we are using this field name or API name property. Third one, description property, which is used to indicate what will be the purpose of this field, so what you are going to do here. Now, next one, help text property. Help text property is used to indicate, so now what will be the online help you want to make it visible to the people over here. Next, the fifth property, length property. Length property is used to indicate how many number of characters of content to be get visible here. That means how many number of characters to be get allowed. Suppose, for example, upon creating this text area. So what is the default number of characters in the text area? 255. Suppose upon creating this text area field, like for example, for this address field, if I'm giving the length as some 20. If I'm giving the length as some 20, only 20 characters will be getting allowed. Like for example, here, let me explain. I'm entering the characters over here. First character, second, third, fourth, fifth, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 20 characters I have entered. So now, whenever you are pressing one more key inside your keyboard, cursor will not move ahead. Cursor will be stopping there itself. Cursor will be stopping there itself. It won't move ahead. It won't allow you to enter some more characters over there. So now here in this case here, whenever if you want to, if you want to restrict the number of characters to be get allowed, then we are going to be using the help of this length property. Length property is used to indicate how many number of characters to be get allowed. Even though if you are entering some more characters, cursor will not move ahead. Cursor will be stopping there itself. Generally, when you go to other programming languages, this entire code we have to write, but in Salesforce, everything is configurable through mouse pointers. Now, next, the sixth property, number of lines visible. Number of lines visible. So what is this property, number of lines visible? Number of lines visible property is used to indicate. So now suppose, for example, I have given this number of characters length equals to 20. For example, I'm entering 2 characters per line here. Now third character and the fourth character in the next line. And then here I'm entering 2 more characters. Like that, how many characters, how many lines will be there? 10 lines. Totally, now total number of characters 20. Per row, I have given 2 characters. Like that, totally 10 lines will be there. So do you want me to display all the 10 lines of content over here, which will be occupying more content, which will be occupying more size on that user post page, on that user interface? So I don't want to display. Please display the first 3 lines of content, or please display the first 5 lines of content. Remaining content we can able to see by using this scroll bar, so that here we can able to indicate how many lines of content to be visible. Remaining content we can able to see by using that scroll bar here. You will be having the scroll bars are available. With the help of that scroll bar, we can able to see that remaining lines of content also. The facility will be available to you. So we can able to see that remaining content by using that scroll bar itself. So that facility will be available to you. In this case, how many number of characters to be get visible at a time, we can indicate that. Remaining content we can able to use this scroll bar, and then we can scroll down that, and then remaining content we can see. For that reason, we are using the property called as number of lines visible property. These are the properties are available as part of text area. Text area data type allows us to enter maximum of 255 characters of content, in multiple lines. We can enter the data in multiple lines, not only in single line, we can enter the data in multiple lines also. Okay, now. Next one, text area long. So what is this text area long data type describes? Text area long data type describes whenever if you want to store some long content, nothing but more number of characters. As of now, we have discussed text area. Text area will allow how many characters? Maximum 255. Sometimes I want to enter more than 255 characters of content. I want to give some description about a particular person. I want to write 1 paragraph of information, 2 paragraphs of information, 1 page information I want to store. So I need more number of characters to be get allowed than what we can do. In this case, Salesforce has given a data type called as text area long, where text area long will allow us to enter maximum of 1,31,072 characters. 1,31,072 characters of content will be getting allowed. The text area long data type will allow us to enter maximum of 1,31,072 characters of content, not more than that. That means here it is also similar like as text area only, but text area will be having the number of characters limit is 255, but the text area long will allow up to maximum of 1,31,072 characters of length. But when coming to the properties will be exactly same properties over here. No change inside the properties. You will be having the similar properties are available over here. We are having the same properties like as text area. Next, text area rich. What is the use of this text area rich control? Text area rich is also one of the text area control which will allow us to enter the maximum of 255, so the 1,31,072 characters of content in the multiple lines along with formatting options. Okay, it allows us to enter the content maximum of 1,31,072 characters of content in the multiple lines along with the formatting options. Formatting options. What do you mean by these formatting options? Formatting option understands whatever the content that you are written, this content we can able to change the font. We can change the style, size. We can do the alignments also, left alignment, right alignment. And we can able to include the hyperlinks. We can insert that images, pictures inside that, everything we can do with the help of this text area rich control. Like for example, when you go to your Gmail application. Okay, when you go to your Gmail application, for example, upon preparing a new email, if you want to prepare a new email to be get sent to the people, then what we can do, we are using the option called as compose option. Through the compose option, we can able to prepare a new email which we can able to send to the people over. Now click on compose. Now here it is preparing one text box over here. In order to enter the content, it is preparing one text box to you over here. Now this is the text box. Here we can able to type the information. Once the information has been getting prepared, we can able to do the formatting also. For that one Salesforce, the Gmail has given the formatting option. This is the tool. Now this feature is called as, this component is called as formatting options here. Like as we can able to change the font also, size also, style also. We can do that alignments also, left alignment, right alignment also, and we can able to do that inserting the images, pictures, everything we can do inside that. For that reason here, in order to make the content look like attractive, we are using the help of that text area rich control. Text area rich control will be also similar like as text area, but it is giving some additional functionalities that we can able to have the formatting options also inside this. No. So when coming to the properties, you will be having the same properties are available here also. Okay, you will be having same properties are available as part of text area rich control also. Okay, the next one, checkbox data type. So what is this checkbox data type? Generally, checkbox is looking like as what? Now let me explain. Checkbox will be looking like this one. This is the checkbox, and this is also a checkbox. So this is the checkbox over here. Generally, checkbox will be unselected, or checkbox may be selected also. Checkbox may be selected also. Whenever the checkbox has been selected, this is called as a checked state. Checked state. If the checkbox is unselected, this is called as unchecked state. Unchecked. So now whenever the checkbox is selected, it is returning the value as true. Whenever the checkbox is unselected, it is returning the value as false. So checkbox data type returning what? Either true or false. Okay, either true or false. In order to indicate whether the customer is active or not. In order to indicate whether the product is available in the stock or not. In order to indicate whether this product can be selected to buy the product or not. So in this case, we need to provide some checkboxes also. So at that time, whenever if you want to prepare a checkbox on the user interface, then we are using the help of a data type called as checkbox data type, where checkbox will be storing either true or false values.
Sir, don't you need to correct it as false in
Yes,
the unchecked?
yes, I will do that. Yeah, I will do that. Now, So now we are going to be adding that either the checkbox to be get selected or checkbox to be unselected over here. So for that one, we are using the help of that, okay, checkbox data type, which will be storing either true or false values. So checkbox will be storing either true or false values inside this. Now, so that here true or false means what? Boolean values. Okay, Boolean values. So in this case, checkbox data type will allow us to store the true or false values inside the field. That means the Boolean values. That is Boolean values. Boolean values should be get allowed inside this. Now, so when coming to the properties, the first four properties are common. For every data type, first four properties are common. And the fifth property is default value. Default value is checked. That means unchecked state. Unchecked state. That means checkbox is not selected. If you want, we can select the checkbox manually over here. So for that reason, we are having the various properties are available as part of this checkbox data type. So checkbox data type will allow us to store either true or false values inside this field. In order to store the true or false values, we are using this checkbox data type.
Sir, I have a question over here, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
So what is the use of field label in checkbox, sir? We don't need to give any values, or we don't need to give any information about any record. So what is the use of?
See, we have to give the field label, right? Suppose, for example, here I'm indicating a checkbox over here. Then what you want to show for this checkbox? We have to use some label, right? So in this case here, we have to give it as active. Okay. Now, is active or anything here. So we have to use some label, right? So if you want to make it activated, then select this checkbox. If you don't want to make it activated, leave it blank so that it will not be inactive. So that here we have to use the label also inside this. For that reason here, for every field, okay, we have to give the label. Okay. If you're not indicating this label, then how the people can understand what is the purpose of this checkbox over here?
Okay.
The people can't understand this. That is a problem. Okay. The next one, currency data type. Currency data type. So what is the use of this currency data type? Currency data type will allow us to store the currency value. It allows us to store the currency value. Currency value here. So currency value means what here? Now let's see. Currency in the sense of money. Okay, I want to store the value related to the money. So in this case, how we are going to store in this currency value over? Now, for example, let's see in this case. For example, I'm having that. The text box called as salary amount. Now given the value as some 40,000. So whenever I'm going to saving this particular record, then it is going to be indicating this, the value like this, salary amount 40,000. So what is this 40,000? Is it $40,000? Is it 40,000 rupees? Is it 40,000 pounds or what? What it is basically? We have to indicate that. For that one, Salesforce is going to be adding the currently configured currency symbol over here. So it is adding the dollars by default. Because the default currency symbol in Salesforce is dollars. It is indicating $40,000. Now here you can raise a question. Sir, can I change this to our own country related currency? Yes. Because we have so many countries are available in the entire world, every country is having its own currency. So we can able to change the currency symbol also. Instead of displaying like as a dollars, we can able to show the currency symbol also. The facility is available. How to change that, we'll see practically. So currency data type will allow us to store the currency values. But currency value will be of type what? It may be purely integer, it may be decimal also. It may be purely integer, it may be decimal also over here. Sometimes here I would like to store the salary. Sometimes I want to store the salary like as some 12,500.50 paisa. Sometimes I want to pay the provident fund, or I want to pay some service tax to the government. So what is that service tax? Like as some 75 rupees 25 paisa. Like that, they're calculating some service tax, they're calculating some GST. So in this case, so whenever we are calculating this currency values, because provident fund, or it may be service tax, it may be income tax, these are all comes under currency values here. Money, we're dealing with money here. So at that time, we can store the exact value also. Like as we can store only integer part, we can store the decimal part also here in this case. So in this case, currency data type will allow us to store the currency value, nothing but numerical value along with the decimal points also. So how many digits we can able to store inside this currency data type? It allows us to store. It allows maximum of an 18-digit number. 18-digit number, including decimal points. Including decimal points. Including decimal points, we can able to enter a maximum of 18-digit number inside this currency data type over here. Now, so whenever I'm storing this currency value, then inside the database, it is storing this currency value along with the currently configured currency symbol inside your organization. Whatever the currency symbol has been configured inside your organization, along with the currency symbol, it will be displaying that value. Now, so in this case, what are the various properties are available as part of this currency data type? We are having the properties. The first four properties are common as usual. First four properties are common. Fifth property is required checkbox. That means to make that field required, to make that field mandatory, we are using the help of required checkbox. To make that field required, we are using the help of required checkbox. Next, length property. Length property is used to indicate how many number of characters to be get allowed. Okay, how many number of characters, sorry, the digits to be get allowed here. So now number of digits to be allowed. And then seventh property is number of decimal digits. That means we can indicate how many number of decimal digits to be get allowed here. We can able to specify the number of decimal digits also. And then eighth one, external ID checkbox. So now this checkbox is used to indicate so whether this particular field can store the external system record ID also. For that reason here, these are the properties has been given by Salesforce as part of currency data type. So currency data type will allow us to store the numerical values along with the decimal digits also up to maximum of an 18-digit number we can store inside this, which will be visible to you on the user interface along with the currently configured currency symbol. Like for example, when you go to your Salesforce instance, whenever I'm going to be opening any one of this record over there, upon loading any of this record, suppose when you open this account records, any of that account record, see, it is representing this currency symbol over here. Annual revenue will be getting visible over here. It is going to be representing this currency symbol here. Along with that currency symbol, we can able to see these values also. That facility will be available to you over here. Okay. If you want to change the currency, then you can change. Now, let me log in into your account. I have logged into that other people's account. So let me log in into your account. Now, it is indicating your currency value, When you go to this accounts, it is indicating the currency value as dollars, because here the default currency given by the Salesforce is dollars. Because whenever I'm going to be entering some annual revenue value, it will be prefixing that annual revenue value with the help of the currently configured currency symbol that is called as dollar symbol. Dollar symbol will be getting prefixed automatically by default. Now, so now here in this case, so if you want to change this currency symbol, then how? How can we change this currency symbol? If you want to change this currency symbol, then we can go with the navigation. Click on this setup menu. Okay, click on the setup menu. Go to the administrator menu in the left panel. Go to the administrator menu in the left panel. Click on company profile and expand it. And click on company information link. There is a link called as company information link. So click on this company information link. Click on this company information link. Now it is providing your organization details. Company means your organization details. Here it is indicating that the default currency locale. The currency locale is, it is indicating English United States dollars. The default currency symbol is US dollars. But I don't want to store the dollar value. I don't want to show the dollar value. I want to show the currency value like as some rupees. So then what we can do, click on this edit button and then go to the currency settings section here. Inside this currency settings section, go to the currency locale field and then we can able to change the currency also. Select the currency whatever you want to display. For the India, we are having two options are available over here. For India, we are having two options are available, like as English India and then you will be having Hindi India. Hindi India. English India and the Hindi India. Two options are available over here. We can select any one of that in order to represent the currency symbol of India. Now, so let's see here in this case. Now, so now select this currency symbol. So I'm selecting the currency symbol as English India. English India. I'm selecting the currency symbol as English India. So as of now, how the currency value will be look like, let me show you. Let me open this account records. Here it is showing like as dollars. Now let me save this changes over. I'm changing it to English India. Now click on save button. Automatically the currency will be changing to the rupee symbol. Now just to refresh this user interface, you will be able to see that symbol that is called as rupee symbol will be getting visible over here. Okay, so that depends upon your organization, depends upon your country to which you are associated, we can able to change that currency symbol also. Now, in this case here, you can raise a question. Sir, suppose for example, if my complete business is running from India, I can select that currency as rupees. Because in India, the currency will be using in terms of rupees. Suppose if I'm from US, then we are dealing with in terms of dollars. So in this case, suppose for example, my business is running in multiple countries. We have a branch in India, we have a branch in US, we have a branch in Middle East, we have a branch in Japan, we have a branch in China. In multiple countries, my business has been expanded. In each and every country, there is a different currencies available. Then how can we display multiple currencies? Do we have any facility? Yes. Salesforce has given that facility called as multiple currencies also we can use. So how can we use that? Just to go to the company information link, click on this edit button. Here inside this currency settings section, we have a checkbox called as in the currency settings section, we have a checkbox called as activate multiple currencies. Activate multiple currencies option so that we can able to see the multiple currencies also over here. Depends upon the country from which you are logging into your Salesforce application. So you can able to, it will be displaying that currency symbol automatically. Along with the currency value will be getting converted automatically by default. So in this case, okay, now here in this case, so depends upon the country, depends upon the location from which you are logging into your Salesforce account, then Salesforce is going to be identifying the country will comes under which region, sorry, the which particular the currency, what is the currency of that country, and then what is the value of that currency. It will be converting that value, it will be displaying inside your text box. For that reason, here we are going to be using this activate multiple currencies option. Now, here you can raise one more question. Sir, how Salesforce will know from which location I'm accessing my Salesforce application? From which location I'm logging into my Salesforce application? How Salesforce will know? Salesforce will be tracking everything. Let me show you. So now here in this case, when you go to that administrator menu, okay, inside the manage users, we have an option called as login history. There is an option called as login history. So from that, Salesforce will be tracking everything over here. From where you are logging in, everything will be tracking by Salesforce. When you click on this download now, it will be tracking all the information. Let me show you that here. What kind of information it is capturing right now? All the logins information. That means my login information will be tracking by Salesforce. Now, let's see, it is indicating that information over here. Now, so this is the username which I have used to log in into my application over here. This is the date and time which I have logged in today. This is the IP address of my system. Login type is application. I have used Salesforce application, login.salesforce.com to log in into my application. My login is successful. Suppose if I'm entering the wrong password, it is tracking this invalid password you have entered. And then I'm using Chrome 83 version of the browser to log in into my application, to access this application. I'm having Windows 7 operating system inside my local device. I'm using the browser to access the application over here. It is indicating that login, how I have logged into my application by using that login.salesforce.com URL. This is the protocol Salesforce will use. This is the encryption code we'll be using in order to encrypt the data over here. This is the country from which I'm logging into my application. This is the country name. This is the subdivision, that is Andhra Pradesh. And this is from the city like some Tenali. This is the postal code of my location over here. This is the latitude of my location. This is the longitude of my location. This is the protocol which it is using. See, entire information has been tracked by Salesforce internally. The entire information has been tracked by Salesforce over there.
A quick question, sir. Now,
Yeah.
Because you have logged in from India, so let's say a person logs in overseas, even there, all these details will fill in?
Yes, everything will be tracking by Salesforce.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So now here in this case, depends upon the location, it will be tracking the whole information. Whenever you are logging into your Salesforce application, it will collect all the details over from which you are logging in, from which location, what is the city name, what is the IP address of that system, and then what is your PIN code, what is that latitude, what is the longitude, everything will be tracking by Salesforce automatically, that is storing inside the database. So based on this country name, whatever the country from which I'm logging into my application, based on this country name, it will be verifying the respective currency. Based on that currency value, it will be displaying this value inside this. So internally, Salesforce is having the currency conversion option also. Currency conversions options are also available in Salesforce by default. Okay. Now, these are the various properties are available as part of this currency data type. Yeah, tell me.
But can't we have an option to select the currency by our own?
Yes, you can select that. Whenever you are activating the multiple currencies, you can select your own options also. Which currency you want.
Thank you.
Okay. Now. Next one. Date field. What is the date data type? Date data type is used to store the date value inside the column. Suppose, for example, I would like to add a column inside my table. Okay, I would like to add a column inside the table. In order to store the birth date of that particular customer. In order to store the birth date of that customer. I'm adding a column here, birth date. So in this case here, we need to store the date value here, not numerical, not string. It will be date value. Date is having some specific format, right? Like as MM, DD, YY, some formats are available. We can't enter the data in the jumbling formats. We have to store the data in a specific format because date is having some values like as month, year, and the date. So we have to enter these values in a proper format here. So in this case here, if you want to store some date values inside this column, then we have to select the data type called as date data type. Date data type will allows us to store the date values. Date values inside the column by selecting from a pop-up calendar. By selecting from a pop-up calendar. Pop-up calendar means what? Salesforce is going to be preparing a calendar to you. Like for example, let me show you. Whenever if you are going to be creating the record, for example, I'm selecting like as some contact. I'm creating a contact. Here we can able to select that. But the date. Whenever I'm going to be typing, whenever I'm going to be pressing the mouse pointer inside my particular text box, it is preparing a pop-up calendar too. With the help of this pop-up calendar, we can select the date whatever you want. So if I'm selecting because some 22nd, it is storing this date value over here. So whenever if you want to store some date values inside the column, then we have to select the data type called as date data type. Now, as part of this date data type, it is having few properties are available. The first 4 properties are common, and the 5th property is required checkbox. Required checkbox, which is used to make that field required. So in order to store that date value, we are using this date data type. Next, time data type. What is the use of this time data type? Time data type is used to store the time value. In order to store some specific time value, it allows us to store the time value inside the field. It allows us to store the time value inside the field. So we can store the time value either in 12 hours format or 24 hours format also. We can store the time either in 12 or 24 hours format. We can store the time either in 12 hours format or 24 hours format also. Because 12 hours format means what? It will be having AM, PM. If it is a 24 hours format, you don't have any AM and PM options. Okay, we don't have any AM and PM option available for that 24 hours. Like as when you go to the railway reservations or when you go to that flight reservation people, okay, those people are using this 24 hours format of time. So in this case, if you want to store the time value either in 12 hours format or 24 hours format, then we are using this time data type. So we can able to store the time in a specific format, like as we can able to store the time in terms of hours and minutes also. We can store the time in terms of hours and the minutes and the seconds also. We can store the time in terms of hours, minutes, and the seconds and the milliseconds also. So now tell me how many milliseconds are available for 1 second? 1 second equals to how many milliseconds? So 1 second is equals to 1000 milliseconds. 1 second is equals to 1000 milliseconds. So now here in this case, whenever we are going to be storing this time values, okay, whenever we are storing the time value we can able to store either in only in hours and minutes and seconds, hours, minutes, seconds, and the milliseconds also. So in order to store this time value, we are going to be using this time data type, which has been given by Salesforce by default. The next one, as part of these properties here, we are having the same properties like as, okay, the date data type. We are having same properties like as date data type. Next, date type. Along with that, here we are having required checkbox in order to make that field mandatory. Next one, date time. Date time data type is used to store both the date and time value stamped inside that single column. Sometimes I want to store created by, last modified by. That will be having what? Both the date and time values available. Like for example, when you go to that record, for example, when you go to a record, you take any of the record, whatever we have. When you observe these fields, okay, created by and the last modified by, these fields will be having date and time value both. Will be having date and time values available here. So if you want to store both the date and time values inside that field, then we have to use the data type called as date time data type. Like for example, I want to schedule a meeting. I want to schedule a client call. Then at that time, when in a specific date and a specific time, that will be having some starting time, that will be having some ending time over here. So at that time, we can able to go with that date time data type here. Now, it allows us to store both the date time stamp value inside the field. Now, the properties. When coming to the properties, we are having the same properties like as your date and the time. Date data type, time data type, and date time data type will be having same properties inside this. Next, number data type. So what is this number data type? Number data type is used to store the numerical values. Okay, this is used to store numerical values. Whenever if you want to store some numerical values along with some decimal points also. Like sometimes I want to store the person age of the customer. Age of the customer is what? A number like some 20 or some 50 or some 100. Like that we can store some numerical value. Sometimes I want to store the weight of a product because it is having, okay, 150 kgs, 500 grams. 150 kgs, 500 grams. That means what? In order to store only the numerical values along with some decimal points, we are using number data type. So number data type will allows us to store the numerical values inside the column, okay, along with the decimal point values also. Okay. It allows us to store numerical values along with the decimal points. Okay, along with the decimal points. Then how many digits it will allow to store this value? So now it will allow us to enter maximum of 18-digit number. We can store maximum of an 18-digit number. We can store maximum of an 18-digit number inside this. Okay, we can specify how many number of decimal digits you would like to expect. How many number of decimal digits you want, you can able to specify inside that also. That facility is available as part of this number data type. Now, so let's come to the properties. When coming to the properties, first 4 properties are common. And next one, we are having that required checkbox. 6th one, length property, which is used to indicate number of digits to be allowed. How many number of digits to be get allowed inside this particular field over here? We can able to indicate this. And then number of digits, okay, for decimal, okay, number of decimal digits. How many number of digits to be get allowed for the decimal point over here? Number of digits to be allowed for decimal point, after decimal point. After decimal point, how many number of digits you would like to allow, so that we can able to specify inside this. Next, we are having this external ID checkbox also, which is used to indicate inside this it can able to store the external systems record ID also inside this. These are few properties are available as part of this number data type. So number data type will allows us to store the numerical values along with the decimal digits also, depends upon your application requirement. Next, URL. So what is this URL data type? URL data type is used to store. Okay, URL data type is used to store the website names. Sometimes I want to store the website name over here. Like for example, let me show. Assume that I'm having a text box. I'm having a text box over here. In order to enter some website name. For example, I have given the website name as www.somegmail.com. So whenever I'm going to selecting the data type like as some URL, so upon saving this record, okay, whenever you are saving this record, then it is going to be displaying this particular website name like this, because website http www.gmail.com. It will be indicating like as a website name, and along with that hyperlink also. It will be displaying along with that hyperlink also inside this. So whenever I'm going to be saving this website field, it is going to be representing this website name like as a hyperlink. It will be representing like as a hyperlink. So whenever once you click on this hyperlink, directly that website will be getting open for you. So for that reason here, it is going to be storing this website name or whatever the path of the web application or whatever the URL we have entered, that will be representing or storing in the form of a hyperlink, so that upon click on this hyperlink, it will be redirecting the user to that specific website directly over here. For that reason, it is going to be using the data type called as URL data type. Okay. Now, it allows us to store the website name or address of a web application based on the path or URL. Now, the properties. As part of properties, the first four properties are common, and then it will be having one more additional property that is called as required checkbox. In order to make that field mandatory, we are using this required checkbox. Next, the phone data type. Phone data type is used to store that contact number values. In order to store the phone number values and the fax number values, we are using this phone data type. Then in this case, you can raise the question, sir, phone is of type a numerical value? No. Like here, whenever I'm going to be entering the phone number, for example, I'm giving that contact number like this. I'm giving the contact number. Whenever I'm saving this record, that means upon saving this record, it will be displaying the contact number like this. Whatever the contact number we have entered, that will be converting into the US phone number format automatically by default. It will be converting like this. It will be converting that phone number into US phone number format automatically. So I am entering the contact number like this, but it will be converting into US phone number format automatically. Like for example, let me show you practically here. When you try to create a new record, I'm entering that phone number value over here. Okay, home phone. I'm giving the home phone like as all are nines. So whenever I'm going to moving the cursor to the outside, it is converting this phone home phone into the phone number format automatically by default. So that here, if you want to store the phone number values and the fax number values by converting into the US phone number format by default, then we are using the help of the phone data type. Phone data type will be allows us to store the phone number value and the fax number values. It allows us to store both phone number and it allows us to store either phone number or fax number values inside the now the properties. When coming to the properties, the first four properties are common and the fifth property is required checkbox. In order to make that field required, we are going to be using this required checkbox. Next, email property, email data type. What is this email data type? Email data type is used to store the email addresses. In order to store the email address value, we are going to be using this email data type. Now, we can raise the question. Sir, email is also the text, right? So why can't we go with the text data type? Why? Because email is having a specific format. Okay, email is having a specific format. So to check whether that email address is correct or not, that means whether it is in valid format or not. Suppose, for example, the customer is entering the email ID like this here, like some Ram @ some Gmail. That's it. He did not enter the proper email ID format. Simply has entered Ram @ Gmail. So, but is it a valid email ID? No. Then how can we do that here? How to validate that? So email data type is having inbuilt validation to verify whatever the email ID you have entered, whether it is correct or not. If it is incorrect, it won't allow you to save the data. If it is correct, then only the email ID will be, the record will be saving inside your table over. For that reason, in order to verify whether the content is in the form of email ID or not, we are using the data type called as email data type. Now, it allows us to store the email ID values inside the field. It contains the inbuilt email validation. By default. Now, the properties. So when coming to the properties, we are having the first four properties are common, and the next property is required checkbox. And the sixth property is external ID checkbox. And the seventh property is unique checkbox. That means we can able to make that column to be have unique values over here. It should have the unique values inside this. Next.
Why do we need this external ID checkbox for this?
Okay. So now external ID checkbox will be used in order to store the external system record ID. That means whenever we are having the integration with the third-party systems, to store the third-party system record ID inside your Salesforce for the reference purpose, we are going to be using this external ID checkbox. Like for example, assume that I'm purchasing a product through Amazon. By using this Amazon website, I'm purchasing a product. So whenever I'm going to be purchasing the product, we have to make the payment, right? Yes. I have selected the option like as okay, net banking. Okay, to make that product, to make that payment, I have selected the option like as okay, net banking. So it will be redirecting you to the banking application. So we can able to enter your username and password. We can make the payment here. So once the payment has been done, so whatever the transaction ID has been generated, it will collect the transaction ID storing inside the Amazon website here. That means for this particular product, customer has made the payment here through net banking. This is the transaction ID of that payment here for the reference purpose. Okay, for the reference, it is collecting that the ICICI Bank the transaction ID inside that Amazon website over here for the reference. Okay, it will be clearly indicating that information also inside that. Okay, it will be clearly indicating that information inside that website itself, because here in order to know this information as well. Now, so for that reason here, okay, for that reason here, whenever if you want to store, okay, whenever if you want to store the external systems records ID inside your Salesforce instance, then we are going to using the checkbox called as okay, external ID checkbox. The next one is percent data type. So what is this percent data type? Percent data type will allows us to store the percentage values. Okay, in order to store the percentage values. Like sometimes I want to store some percentage values. I want to store some percentage value. Like I want to store some discount. Here I'm indicating the discount. So in the text box, I have entered 5. What is this 5? 5 rupees discount, 500 discount, 5,000 discount, 5 lakhs discount. So it is a 5% discount. So that we are going to storing along with percentage values. In this case, what needs to be done? Along with that value, if you want to postfix with the percentage symbol, we are using this percent data type. Whenever I'm going to saving this value, okay, upon saving this value, it will represent that value along with that, we'll be postfixing with that, okay, percentage symbol. Currency symbol will be prefixed, percentage symbol will be postfixed over there. Okay, percentage symbol will be getting postfixed over here. Now, so now here in this case, whenever if you want to store that, okay, whenever if you want to store this information over there, whenever if you want to store some discounts information, whenever if you want to store some discount related information, and then if you want to store the marks information in terms of percentages, if you want to calculate some provident fund like some 12%, GST some 3%, or income tax some 20%, or service tax some 5%, like that. If you want to store some percentage values, then we can able to use the help of that percent data type, which will be used to store the numerical value, because this percentage is what? 5%, 10%, 2.5%, like that. These are nothing but numerical values here. So the percent data type will allows us to store the numerical values, including the decimal digits. It will postfix the value. It will postfix the value with percentage symbol. to postfix the value with percentage. For example. Then what are the various properties are available? The first 4 properties are common as usual. And the 5th property is the length property, which is used to indicate that how many number of digits to be get allowed. 6th property, number of decimal digits. How many number of decimal digits to be get allowed. And the 7th property, required checkbox. Required checkbox. These are the various properties are available as part of this percentage data type. Okay, now, so we have the 4 more data types, 5 more data types are available. We'll see in tomorrow's session, and then we'll see how to create the fields inside your object also. Okay, how to create the fields inside the object also we'll see in tomorrow's session.
One question I have, sir, like while creating tabs, you said we can create web tabs, right?
Yes.
So that one and this URL field, are they related or like that?
No, both are different, madam. Both are different.
Both are different. Like
Both are
so
different.
that one, when we given a website, that will be like another one completely. This one is related
right.
to the company we are creating, right?
Yes, right. That's it.
Got it.